The girl beside Li Xiaoxin also raised her gun in confrontation, but Li Xiaoxin pushed their weapons down and said, "Don't do anything reckless. This is everyone's own choice. Don't cause more casualties because of me. Shui, we grew up together. Among our batch of angels, only you and I are left. I hope you can understand how I feel. I feel like a walking corpse. I want to get out." Shui looked at Li Xiaoxin. That face, as flawless as a movie star's, had never shown much expression. But now, both her eyes and her features were filled with urgency and longing. She didn't understand what it was about the outside world that attracted you. Inside the organization they had everything, material comfort and thrilling missions. Shui didn't envy Yu's circumstances, but she did envy that expressive face. Every angel, to avoid triggering the chip implanted in their brain by showing too much inner emotion, had sooner or later learned to keep their feelings hidden. Eventually they all wore beautiful yet numb masks. Love and hate became luxuries. Even speaking one's true thoughts required courage. If what Yu sought was this kind of freedom and self-awareness, then someone would have to pay a price for it. Shui swung her gun and fired a burst of bullets into the angels standing beside her. Those who refused to leave the base with Li Xiaoxian never expected Shui to shoot them. 4 girls instantly collapsed without a sound, bleeding onto the floor. Li Xiaoxian jumped in shock. The girls beside her gasped and stepped back, raising their guns toward Shui. Blood splattered across Shui's face. On the black and white night vision screen, it looked like mud smeared across porcelain skin. Coldly, she said to Li Xiaoxian, "Everything has a cost. Once you leave, never show your faces to me again, and get that chip out as soon as possible." Li Xiaoxian took 2 steps forward. "Shui, come with us. If you stay like this, you'll die on some mission eventually. We can find an expert right away to remove the chip." Shui stepped back, keeping her distance. Her voice remained icy. "That's my business. You go ahead. Don't wait until I regret it and shoot you in the back." Shui, Li Xiaoxian wanted to say more, but too much had happened in that instant, leaving her speechless. She grabbed her gun and led the girls who wanted to escape into the tunnel leading out of the base. After all, the angels were elite operatives. Even under the robots' relentless assault, they managed to kill 2 members of An Liang's team on the platform. The robots stayed underground to hold off the angels, buying time for An Lang and An Yun. Dodging bullets that grazed their scalps, they burst onto the surface and, with their last remaining mercenary, raced toward the base's main drainage tunnel. An Lang kept turning over in his mind what An Yun had said about the Zhu Xilong Grand Formation. Seizing the moment, he asked her. An Yun replied, "First, you've never studied the Longjuo. Second, you've spent so long reading urban architectural Feng Shui that you've forgotten everything about natural geography and Feng Shui. Now you probably only know how to use a compass inside office buildings." Suddenly, An Yun called out in Chinese to the mercenary running ahead. "Hey sir, your shoelace is untied." The white man didn't react at all. An Lang said he doesn't understand Chinese, and Yun laughed. "Seems that way. I just wanted to test it, just to be safe. Tokyo is Japan's greatest Pingyang-long site. Pingyang-long formations are excellent, but not every flatland qualifies as an imperial capital. Yanggong Feng Shui doesn't discuss imperial city layouts, but the imperial Feng Shui art, the Longju, specifically analyzes 8 types of Tianzi Pingyang-long formations. During college, An Liang had majored in geography to deepen his Feng Shui studies. He knew that Pingyang-long referred to alluvial plains. Since flat terrain offered little variation, even classical Feng Shui placed primary emphasis on water systems, using surface water flow to trace dragon veins and locate burial sites. He believed he'd mastered the tradition, so An Yun's words thrilled and intrigued him. Curious, he asked. The old saying goes, in flatlands without an opening, even immortals can't act. Pingyang-long relies entirely on water methods. So are those 8 types not based on water? No, An Yun said. Hearing a subway train approaching above, she pulled down her night vision goggles. We're almost at the surface, no need for these anymore. They're blinding. From the 3D map I saw that within 100 miles around Tokyo, countless small mounds dot the land. You'll see them once we're out. Even Gokokuji Temple sits atop a round hillock. These are traces of the descending dragon energy from central Japan, hence the name Zhu Xilong, or Silk Thread Dragon. I noticed those too, An Liang said. They're Jinxingqiu metal star mounds that bring wealth. That's why Tokyo became an international financial hub. But what does that have to do with being an imperial capital? An Yun slowed her pace behind the white mercenary and cautiously stepped off the tracks. Before the next train rushed through, she turned to An Lang and said, "1 mound is just a wealth-bringing metal star, but 100 mounds, that's qualitative change through accumulation, like comparing a single brick to 10,000 bricks. 10,000 bricks build a house. The Zhu Xilong forms when earth energy becomes so excessive it generates metal, which then drains it away. The Longju calls this phenomenon Mantu Liu Jin, overflowing earth. Flowing metal. I noticed the underground base is laid out like a spiderweb to harmonize with the surface Feng Shui pattern. Chinese Feng Shui would harness this dragon vein using the harmonious principle of metal generating water. But the Nagayoshi clan uses aggressive mutual destruction as their method. They channel metal energy to dominate wood. With metal support, they oriented the base toward the southeast, which belongs to wood, using metal to overcome wood and seize control through dragon energy. Even if Chinese Feng Shui accepted such a layout, it would place the main entrance in the southeast to receive upright qi and power. But the Kuni no Tokatachi Shinryu seals off the entire southeast direction. They want to swallow every breath of dragon energy without leaking a drop. That mindset actually aligns perfectly with Chen Kunyi, all or nothing gamble. Hearing this, An Liang chuckled. He recalled that during World War II, just before Japan's defeat, they formed the Kamikaze Special Attack Corps, pilots flying bomb-laden planes that could take off but never land, crashing into American warships. Those suicide planes bore the words Qan Kun Yiji. Seeing his mother, even after imprisonment, still able to speak so calmly, and hearing for the first time the secrets of the Long Ju, filled him with joy. He'd always loved sitting in the backyard chatting with her as a child, and later traveling with her to read Feng Shui sites as a teenager. Now, that old admiration resurfaced. Smiling, he said, "I get the rest now. Since there's no exit in the southeast, they used a watermouth designed specifically for suppressing Sha-Qi as the entry point. That would make people inside the base violent and greedy, but since that's exactly what they do, the Feng Shui setup fits them perfectly." And Yun crouched at the dark mouth of the subway tunnel and patted An Liang's shoulder. "Exactly. You're ready to study the Long Ju," again chasing the subway out onto the surface. An Liang tossed away his weapons along the way, carrying only his laptop wrapped in a jacket that also concealed a short-barreled shotgun. Fighting above ground couldn't attract attention from residents or police. Anything too loud or obviously military had to stay hidden. Besides, none of this gear cost him a cent, so he didn't feel the slightest regret. The three of them, dressed in thin clothing, reached the eastern wall outside Gokokuji Temple. The area was surrounded by low-rise houses, with steep slopes, narrow roads, and few pedestrians. Both An Liang's and the white mercenaries' phones rang simultaneously. It was Elena, who'd been desperately trying to reach them from the hotel. There'd been no wireless signal underground, and they'd dumped all their gear when escaping, so now Elena and her assistants were frantically calling every phone they owned. Hoping to reconnect the moment they surfaced, An Liang told her they still hadn't found the main exit of the base, then kept the line open, using the most primitive method to coordinate their next move. It was already cold in Tokyo in December. After days of exhaustion and just sweating heavily during their escape, An Liang caught a chill as soon as the wind hit him, sneezing several times in a row. An Yun glanced at the white mercenary. He wore only 2 layers of light athletic wear, but had bright eyes and sharp energy. She turned to An Liang and said, "Look how strong he is. How come you're the one sneezing?" "Sis Yun, I've gone from the jungles of Malaysia to the Tokyo subway in under a week without a single good night's sleep. If I didn't get sick, that'd be weird. Is this the place?" An Liang pointed to a row of manhole covers, and Yun looked around carefully. "It should be, but they wouldn't crawl out through the sewers. Wait, it's early December, yet the grass nearby is still green. That means there's not just a drainage system here, there must be groundwater or even a lake." An Liang immediately opened his laptop and pulled up satellite imagery. Sure enough, a lake appeared east of Gokokuji Temple, and Yun pointed toward a wide stone staircase sloping downward. "Over there, hurry," as they ran. And Liang asked, "Sis Yun, you're amazing. Just by looking you knew there was a lake. But why over there instead of here?" They stopped beside a large triangular glass structure, and Yun whispered, "Gentlemen, get ready. They're coming out any second." The mercenary took position near the stone steps. Inside the glass house, sounds and movement began, and Yun leaned close to An Liang and murmured, "Ren Taro wants to escape with Matvey. He won't drag him through the streets at gunpoint. He'll use a car. A car needs a garage, and a garage needs road access. The base's exit must be hidden inside a large garage. The biggest building near the drainage system is this one, and it has a driveway leading straight down to the main road. It's definitely here." And Liang gave her a look of deep admiration and raised his thumb. On the phone, Elena kept pressing, "Liang, who's talking? Are you sure about the exit?" Proudly, and Liang replied, "That's my esteemed mother. Without her, your plan would have failed completely. We're at Higashi Otsuka 2chom, east of Gokokuji Temple. Get ready to make your move." The glass structure was fully mirrored, impossible to see inside from the outside. But per Elena's plan, there would be no major firefight on Tokyo streets. As 3 small vans rolled out of the glass building and the doors closed behind them, and Liang and his team suddenly emerged from the side, blocking the van's retreat. At the same time, 3 U.S. military jeeps sealed off the residential exits. And Liang watched as 3 squads of U.S. military police swiftly surrounded the van convoy. The roof of the middle van quietly opened. With a roar of a jet engine, Ren Taro launched into the sky on a backpack-style personal flight unit, heading north. Matvey remained in the van. Ren Taro wouldn't take him along. 2 people on the flight unit would slow it down, and with armed MPs closing in, keeping Matvey would guarantee a relentless chase. They might even shoot him down like an aircraft. Before flying off, Ren Taro glanced back down. And Liang and An Yun stared right back. His cold, contemptuous gaze clearly told An Liang, "Next time I'll win everything back." After all they'd endured, An Yun could finally reunite with her 2 children, and An Liang had successfully evaded the life-threatening calamity destined for his 30th year. For the first time, the family felt truly happy and at peace. Later, they saw a brief news report on TV. During evening rush hour, a strange localized tremor shook the area beneath Gokokuji Temple. Residents reported strong shaking, and the Yamanote Line subway station at Gokokuji lost power for 20 minutes, directly affecting over 20,000 passengers. The Japan Meteorological Agency attributed it to a minor, isolated seismic event causing a short circuit, assuring the public no further danger loomed. Monks from Gokokuji, however, claimed it was a divine omen, a warning from the Buddha against Tokyo's moral decay. If citizens continued indulging in materialism, greater disasters would follow. Seeing how the Japanese government downplayed the incident, they decided to forget about Elena's affairs entirely. That night, they stayed up laughing and chatting in their hotel suite. Liu Zhongtang played the perfect host, booking rooms, ordering food, selecting wine, handling everything with eager diligence, clearly trying to impress his future mother-in-law. Once Yun learned Liu Zhongtang's background, she took an immediate liking to him. Lounging on the sofa, she said warmly, "Brother Liu, you're not only from Hongmen, but also a fellow practitioner of metaphysics. We must keep in touch. The Hongmen Dragonhead himself is an old friend of mine. Let's invite him for tea sometime." Liu Zhongtang chuckled modestly. Absolutely, absolutely. I often consult Sister Jing about Catholic doctrine, and I'd love to study Feng Shui more deeply under Sis Yun, but I'm afraid I lack the merit, haha. An Liang, wearing a crisp new shirt and holding a wine glass, studied Liu Zhongtang's clean-shaven chin with suspicion. Liu Guanzhong, I've always wondered, how did you end up believing in God? Was it just to get close to Sister Jing? Liu Zhongtang's brow furrowed instantly. That question isn't constructive, he said sternly. Sister Jing, who'd been clinging sweetly to An Yun's side, blushed and opened her mouth to scold An Liang, but he didn't even look at her. He simply raised a hand to cut her off, then turned back to Liu Zhongtang. All you Hongmen brothers worship Guangong, so after converting to Christianity, do you still pay respects to Guangong? Liu Zhongtang's expression darkened further. In truth, he never left home without burning incense to Guangong, but he also attended Mass every Sunday. Catholic doctrine forbade worshipping any idol besides God, yet as Hongmen's secretary, skipping Guangong's rites was unthinkable. The question trapped him completely, and now Sister Jing was glaring at him, waiting for an answer, while An Yun's gentle smile suddenly seemed far less innocent. He'd held it in for a long time, and finally blurted out 2 words to An Liang, superficial. It immediately sent An Liang into a fit of laughter. An Jing, however, stared seriously at Liu Zhongtang, as if she wouldn't let him go back to sleep until he answered. An Liang stopped teasing Liu Zhongtang. After laughing his fill, he flipped up from the sofa and asked An Yun, "Mother, I don't quite understand why did Rentaro try to interrogate you for the whereabouts of the Long Ju, yet lock you up in the Tianji position, which is fatal? Wouldn't the Dixing position meant for living people be better for interrogation?" An Yun sighed and said, "Your analysis is accurate, but it lacks adaptability and precision. As you already know, he didn't need me to live long. All he needed was for me to think about something, and his brainwave receiver could steal that information directly from my mind. If I involuntarily thought about the Long Ju, it wouldn't matter whether I was in the Tianji or Dixing position. What you missed is this. The room where I was imprisoned was both the Tianji position and the Diyao position. The Diyao direction carries a malevolent influence that causes mental confusion and even madness, making it easier for them to manipulate my thoughts." Seeing the topic shift, Liu Zhongtang quickly chimed in. "Then why would the Apostle Society's elite female agents be housed in the Dixing position? That offers them no benefit at all." And Liang immediately replied, "They're just hired hands. What benefits do they need? Food and shelter are enough. When the boss gives the order, they all go out risking their lives. As long as there's auspicious chi from innate water to keep them healthy, strong and agile, and the Dixing force traps them so they can't leave the organization, that's a dog-keeping layout, and it's downright sinister." His excited tone gradually slowed, growing quieter and quieter, until by the end he was almost muttering to himself. "Xiaoxian lived there too, didn't she? Will she ever leave the Apostles? I didn't see her at all back at the base." Everyone noticed the sudden sadness that crossed on Liang's face. An Yun turned to look out the floor-to-ceiling window at Tokyo's glittering night skyline. An Jing moved to sit beside An Liang and gently put an arm around his shoulder. He told her softly. She said she'd come back to find me. Snow had already begun falling in New York. Dressed in a crisp suit and carrying a briefcase, An Liang stood among sharply dressed Western office workers, sipping coffee as they squeezed into the elevator together. He couldn't help thinking, it's already past 10 in the morning, and everyone keeps saying the US economy is in recession, and companies are laying people off. So why are there still so many people crowding into office buildings? The elevator rose to the 7th floor, and Liang strode quickly into his office. This was a high-end office building in the west side, though the 7th floor was the cheapest. In Western tradition, 7 symbolizes death, the final number, and slightly superstitious companies avoided renting it. Usually it was reserved for building management or mechanical equipment, but Liang especially liked it. Westerners saw the 7th floor as cursed, but a Feng Shui consultancy that claimed to change fate had to dare to set up shop right here. If he himself insisted on lucky numbers for protection, how could he convince Westerners of the power and courage behind Feng Shui? Moreover, floors 1 through 6 were occupied by a shopping mall, and the 7th floor had a large open terrace. And Liang enjoyed walking around up there. It gave him more space to move and fresh air to breathe. But honestly, those were just excuses. The real reason was that Liang knew his birth chart doomed him to bad luck, and he never knew what disaster might strike next. Staying on a lower floor meant that if there was ever a fire alarm or terrorist attack, he could escape first. Even if he couldn't get away, this height was still reachable by fire truck ladders, safety first. And Liang's Feng Shui consultancy wasn't lonely. A few small Indian-run accounting and law firms shared the floor, along with the building management office. The hallway was always bustling with people. He stood for a moment outside his office door. Everything looked exactly as it had when he left. He thought to himself, the Feng Shui layout hasn't changed. Those guys inside must still be alive and well. He glanced up at the pinhole camera sticking out from his office. And just then the door burst open. A short, bespectacled girl shrieked and lunged into his arms. Alexander. And Liang took half a step back, planted his feet in a horse stance, tilted his head up toward the ceiling and spread his arms wide to keep his balance, careful not to spill his coffee. This enthusiastic dog-like tackle happened every so often despite his repeated warnings. The girl hugged his waist, shook him a few times, then giggled and stepped back, holding the door open for him. And Liang smiled politely and said, "Hi, M.A., good morning. Hi, you've lost a bit of weight, but you look sharper. I was really worried you'd died and wouldn't come back." M.A.'s voice was high-pitched and her exaggerated expression made her look like a cartoon child. As he walked into the office, and Liang said, "Yeah, I was worried too, but I'm fine now." Official announcement. "All the wills I left behind are void. Go grab them from my room and shred them. Otherwise you might actually murder me just for that severance pay. Where's you?" "Hi, mister. And, good morning. I was just getting nuts ready for you." A young Chinese-American man in a shirt and tie approached with a tray of mixed nuts, extended his hand for a shake, and added, "I heard from Dada yesterday that you were coming back, so I went out and bought a huge jar of dried nuts for your coffee. Hehehe." The usually refined-looking Yu ended with a silly chuckle. And Liang thanked him and kept walking toward his private office. "Where's Dada?" Yu hurried ahead and opened the office door for him. And Liang froze the moment he stepped inside. His office had always been serene and elegant, Chinese calligraphy scrolls on the walls, a tea set on the low table, all designed to let clients from around the world experience Chinese culture. But now it looked like a computer server room. 6 monitors sat on his desk, a mountain of CPU towers piled beneath, and wires of all thicknesses tangled everywhere. On the left wall hung an oversized black basketball jersey and a baseball glove. On the right, 2 extra-large suits. All the calligraphy and paintings were completely covered except for a single rosewood horizontal plaque in the center, bearing bold brushstrokes in both Chinese and English, "Safety first." And Liang sniffed the air. He smelled the greasy aroma of grilled sausages. He turned and glared at Yu. Yu immediately dashed to rummage through the desk drawers. "A cleaning crew comes in every night. They make things messy, but it's not dirty, I think. Dada left some food in here. And the cleaners didn't dare touch it." Xiao Yu pulled a pizza out of the drawer as he spoke. And Liang quickly turned the air conditioner dial to maximum, then walked over and sat down beside Xiao Yu's desk, saying to A-Mei, "Prison really isn't a place that makes people better. Ever since that ex-convict sat in my office, it started to feel like a jail cell." A-Mei snatched the bowl of nuts from Xiao Yu's hand and set it down in front of An Liang. "A jail cell is cleaner than this. That Dada keeps winking at me. If he does it again, I'll sue him for sexual harassment." She pulled up a chair next to An Liang and leaned in affectionately. "Alexander, where have you been? Did you go somewhere dangerous to seek dragons and locate auspicious sites?" An Liang never liked being called Liang. Westerners butchered the pronunciation. And when Chinese people said it, it sounded too much like Nyang, mom. So he'd printed a strong, masculine English name on his business cards, Alexander. But aside from A-Mei, no one ever used it. Hearing her call him Alexander today was honestly the greatest comfort he'd had all day. He softened his expression slightly and said, "I can't tell you where I've been. Just pretend I never left. Anything happened this month?" A-Mei chattered away excitedly. "Lots of new clients called. I pushed all their appointments to this month. We've been getting tons of calls from banks lately. You can hear it in their voices, so humble and desperate. They're clearly about to go under. I wrote down every single one and even warned my relatives and friends not to deposit money there. Anyone who already did should withdraw immediately. If those banks collapse, the paperwork nightmare will be unbearable." And Liang took a sip of coffee. "It's the subprime mortgage crisis. Banks worldwide are bleeding money. This isn't something you can fix with a small Feng Shui layout. At best, we might help them retain existing clients and prevent mass bank runs, buying them time to secure emergency loans. Honestly, it's giving me a headache. Any other kinds of clients?" A-Mei swiftly opened Xiao Yu's computer. "One hospital wants a Feng Shui consultation. Look." Xiao Yu pulled a file from the cabinet and handed it to An Liang. "They've already sent over their floor plans." An Liang flipped through the blueprints and frowned. "What kind of world is this? Hospitals hiring Feng Shui masters now? What's their problem? What do they want?" A-Mei adjusted her oversized glasses. "They say patient numbers suddenly dropped this quarter. They want to revive their business." An Liang looked up, annoyed. "Business? A hospital is supposed to save lives, not run a business. Fewer patients means everyone's healthier. Do they seriously wish every New Yorker would fall ill just so they get more customers? Their motives are impure. I won't take the case." Xiao Yu swiveled the computer screen toward An Liang. "I checked their records 2 months ago. An emergency patient arrived late at night but was completely ignored all night. By dawn he was found dead in the hallway. Police reviewed the security footage. Doctors kept walking past him while he was dying. After he collapsed, a security guard even kicked him twice, saw no reaction, and just walked away. The family sued for massive compensation. After the media covered it, locals stopped going to that hospital altogether. Mr. An, you shouldn't get involved." And Liang slammed the blueprint onto the desk. "That's heartless. A hospital like that deserves to shut down. Why would I consult for them? If I showed up on site and discovered something like this, I'd set up a destructive key formation to guarantee they lose the lawsuit and go bankrupt immediately. Honestly, before he could finish, a severely overweight black man appeared at the office doorway. Daniel's booming voice instantly shook the entire room. "Yo ho, my brother, you're finally back." Daniel spread his bear-like arms wide, ready to embrace Liang. Ever since they'd met, they'd clicked instantly and always greeted each other this enthusiastically. But this time, Liang didn't return the hug. He sprang up from his chair, sidestepped, grabbed Daniel's wrist, twisted it backward, shoved him into his private office, slammed the door shut, and unleashed a barrage of punches, fists flying like machine gun fire, battle cries echoing Bruce Lee, as Daniel howled in agony. After venting, Liang straightened his clothes. "Get up, stop playing dead, I only use 30% of my strength, you're fat enough to take it, and remember, never ever eat pizza in my office again." Daniel lay sprawled on the sofa, eyes half open. "What about hot dogs?" And Liang raised a fist threateningly. Daniel immediately covered his head with both hands. "No hot dogs, no burgers, no lunchboxes, no ramen, no ice cream, no cola, no fries, none of it." Daniel chuckled. Okay, how about a glass of red wine?" And Liang narrowed his eyes sideways. "Red wine in broad daylight?" Daniel rolled off the sofa, reached under the desk, and pulled out a bottle of red wine. "We're already millionaires. Soon we'll be multimillionaires. In 2 months we might even hit billionaire status. When that happens, we'll be drinking red wine in Hawaii." And Liang flopped into his big executive chair and started tapping rapidly on his keyboard. "Huh? We didn't lose money?" Daniel uncorked the bottle and placed 2 wine glasses on the desk. "Just check the transaction records." As Liang scrolled through the data, he muttered, "Take all these computers and clothes home, never bring them into the office again." Daniel looked shocked. "But these are your things. Mine?" "Yeah, remember the judge ruled I can't use computers for personal purposes, so everything had to be purchased under the firm's name. I made sure the computer company billed you directly." And Liang stared at the screen, teeth clenched. "I hate black people." Daniel grinned, placed a glass of red wine beside Liang's hand, and tapped a few keys with his thick index finger. A densely packed invoice popped up on screen, and Liang's eyes instantly lit up like car headlights. He turned to Daniel. "Seriously?" Daniel gave a knowing nod. And Liang roared, "You used 100x leverage and went all in for a whole month? Are you insane? Don't you see the words above your head, safety first? No Wall Street firm would ever hire someone who takes risks like this. Barings Bank collapsed because of lunatics like you." "Exactly," Daniel patted Liang's shoulder warmly. "That's why we made 10 times the profit. But since half belongs to me, your account actually multiplied by 5. $5 million, enough for you to buy all these computers, give me my own private office, and maybe even a conference room where I'm allowed to eat. Then you can travel the world while I keep trading here. Hee hee." And Liang tilted his head up to look at Daniel's dark round face and opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Daniel strolled to the center of the office with his hands in his pockets, sipping red wine as he spoke. "Initial capital needs to accumulate quickly. This kind of trading strategy is indeed very risky, but I have absolute confidence that the US dollar will fall, so I dared to go all in like this. Capital safety is crucial. From now on my operations will shift toward conservatism, increasingly conservative and secure as our funds grow. You can rest easy." He paused, then added with a suave turn and a supremely confident smile, "Besides, we might not even need to use our own money soon. A mysterious client approached me about a large-scale operation." He turned smoothly and winked at Liang. "A financial battle worth over $1 billion is about to unfold right here, at Liang Feng Shui Consulting. If we land this deal, we'll never have to worry about money for the rest of our lives." And Liang frowned, his eyes darting left and right. Something felt off. What mysterious client? And why not trade through a financial firm? Why do it here? Daniel gave him a single knowing wink. "I'll tell you once it's finalized. With profits that massive, you'll be interested." He walked behind the big armchair and draped an arm over Liang's shoulder. "We're both greedy New Yorkers, aren't we?" Suddenly, a heavy metal rock tune blared from Liang's pocket, startling them both. He pulled out his phone. It was Elena calling. More than 10 days had passed since Liang's family and Elena's group returned to the US from Tokyo. Sister Jing had gone back to the Holy Spirit Convent to resume her duties as a nun. Lu Zhongtong was taking a detour through Mexico to re-enter the US illegally, pretending he'd never left. Elena had taken full control of David Group, and Madvey had returned to his normal research work. All the technical contracts he'd signed with David Group had been seamlessly transferred per standard business practice, under the umbrella of United America's investment. Since both Elena and Madvey expressed interest in further collaboration with Liang, he knew it was only a matter of time before she called. Once she'd sorted out the takeover now. She invited him to meet at David Group's headquarters and have lunch together. And Liang's heart leapt with anticipation. The David Group affair was far from over. Deeper, greater mysteries might well lie hidden behind Elena herself. Back in the US, Yun had warned Liang, if Ren Taro could simultaneously kidnap both her and Madvey, then the Long Jew must be intricately linked to David Group. Until that connection was fully unraveled, their family would never know peace. Beneath their brief period of calm lay profound unease. On the phone, Liang half reluctantly accepted Elena's invitation, feigning the busy schedule of an important man, but in truth, he'd been waiting for this call for a long time. After setting a time, he walked slowly downstairs, got into his car, and inched through Manhattan's gridlocked traffic until he reached 120 Wall Street. The 23rd floor of this building had once been where two like-minded friends built something remarkable. Yet within just 1 month, everything had changed beyond recognition. The Feng Shui layout Liang had designed here should have ensured David Group's smooth operation for 20 years. But now some force had shattered the path the Feng Shui had set. Liang knew this force carried hatred and greed, but could there be something else? Entering the 23rd floor, he found no trace of David Group, and no Li Xiuxian coming out to greet him. What happened a month ago felt like a dream. At the glass door, he didn't press the doorbell. Instead, he entered the same 9-digit code Li Xiuxian had used. He knew it wouldn't open the door anymore, but pressing it again still brought a faint smile to his lips and a tightness to his chest. The receptionist opened the door and ushered him in. Behind the 3 elevator doors, a plaque now read United Americas Development Engineering Company, a subsidiary of United Americas Investment. The office layout remained unchanged. The receptionist led him to David's former office, and a secretary escorted him inside. Unconsciously, Liang glanced toward Dan's old office door, where Li Xiuxian once sat like an ordinary girl. Now, a white woman sat there. The spacious CEO office was half the size of a badminton court. One side held a large sofa and bookshelves, the other the executive desk. From here one could overlook the East River, Brooklyn Bridge, over a century old, to the left, Governor's Island guarding the water's mouth to the right. Elena had been deep in conversation with several white colleagues. Seeing Liang enter, she immediately wrapped up the discussion, saw her guests out, and closed the office door. She wasn't wearing glasses. Her golden hair was elegantly coiled into a chignon, and her designer suit exuded grace and luxury, yet her expression remained utterly indifferent. She lit a cigarette, gestured for Liang to sit across from her, then slumped into the big armchair as if boneless, speaking in a weary voice. "I'm dead tired since coming back. Business matters are way more annoying than research. Did you buy yourself a nice gift with that 8 million fee? I honestly don't even know what you like. Humph." Liang replied calmly, "I was born without the luck to get rich. Most of my income goes to charity. The bulk of that 8 million went to the Children's Cancer Fund. I bought myself a cup of coffee, already drank it. Oh hey, donate a bit more. And they might declare you a righteous one." Liang knew righteous one was a Jewish honorific for someone who made extraordinary contributions to society and the nation. Other cultures didn't use this term. Sensing something, he asked carefully, "Are you Jewish?" Elena smiled faintly and waved away the smoke in front of her. "My grandmother was Jewish. This office, you laid out the feng shui here. I kept every single arrangement exactly as you left it. I wanted to see if your feng shui setup would bring me any benefits too." "It might not bring you benefits," Liang said, spreading his hands. "If your luck has been poor lately, this layout might only protect you from harm, and besides," he hesitated. "This feng shui layout failed. Both David and the senator died here, and later Dan met a violent end too. Honestly, you shouldn't trust me anymore." "No," Elena countered firmly. "I don't think the David Group incident proves feng shui failed, because I found a clue in Matvei's research files." Liang instantly perked up. He'd studied feng shui since childhood and verified countless layouts across the globe. Whether a place had been intentionally arranged or not, feng shui analysis always yielded fairly accurate insights. By comparison, the David Group case remained a true enigma, which was precisely why he refused to let it go. Elena's blue eyes glistened as she watched Liang, eager to see his reaction to what she'd just said. Everything unfolded exactly as she'd expected. She could tell he was trying hard to hide his excitement. "Oh, relax a little, my prince. How about a cup of coffee? Or would you prefer Mexican Cotepec?" Elena remembered that Liang had a refined palate for coffee just like her. She strolled over to the coffee machine and slowly adjusted the grind as she spoke to him. "Last time you were at my lab, I told you that gene sequences determine fate. I also discovered that radiation can alter genes. But there are many types of radiation, numerous substances, electronic devices, even this coffee pot emits some level of it. Most radiation either kills or damages genes, so I believe radiation kills by first altering the most fundamental code within us. When that code is changed or broken, death occurs abruptly in the evolutionary sequence of our genes, though mutation is also possible. Of course, when the atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, from a metaphysical standpoint, fewer than 1 in 10,000 people were truly destined to die. The vast majority were killed suddenly by forces outside their fate. But then again, don't earthquakes, tsunamis, and wars also cause mass deaths? What does that have to do with radiation? Elena placed 2 fragrant cups of coffee on the table and continued. "You're talking about another kind of force now. Scientific research must proceed step by step. After discovering this principle, I tested both this room and the conference room. Both showed traces of abnormal low-level radiation residue, even now, though it's no longer lethal. David's real cause of death was likely ionizing radiation. If you have enough energy to power a compact radiation device that emits a sudden burst of intense radiation, it could kill anyone, even those whose genes weren't meant to die yet." Elena's words reminded Liang of the neural pulse weapon Li Xiuxian had given him, back in Beijing. They'd already received analysis results from Southern New Energy Development Company and had a rough idea of how the device killed. Elena's findings only confirmed his suspicions further. Liang took a sip of the rich coffee and said, "And then, Elena was slightly surprised he wasn't nearly as shocked as she'd imagined. During the Tokyo rescue operation, one of her independent squads had been tasked specifically with raiding the Apostles Society base to collect any high-tech equipment. From the shattered remains of the neural pulse weapon they recovered, Elena quickly deduced the true cause of David's death and gathered crucial data for her genetic research. Yet Lang acted as if he'd known all along. She immediately guessed Li Xiaoqian must have shared information with him. But that didn't matter. The whole point was just to pique his interest for deeper collaboration. However, there are many other forces that affect genes. Matvey's research uncovered a 35K microwave frequency, one even more powerful than ionizing radiation. Hearing this, Lang felt a deep chill run through him. Humans were already fragile creatures, yet scientists kept inventing new ways to kill, ways so precise and cruel they could erase someone from existence outside the bounds of fate itself. He stared at Elena and laughed absently. You two have become God's spokespeople. If God makes a mistake about someone's fate, you just go ahead and eliminate them. Maybe. I really should have let Matvey die back then. Elena walked over to the door, picked up her handbag and coat, and said to Lang, you once drank coffee at my lab. I extracted your DNA from the rim of your cup for research and found your life expectancy was only 30 years. But when I tested your genes again after returning, I discovered your longevity markers had rearranged themselves. Your lifespan now extends to 90 years. So old. What? And Lang was genuinely stunned. He practically barked. How dare you extract my DNA without permission? That's my privacy. Elena gave a cold laugh. Nonsense. It's not illegal. And you're a Feng Shui master. Your very duty is to alter fate. If you calculate your own destiny and then change it, what's so strange about that? The same thing happened to Matvey. You didn't die according to Feng Shui predictions, and he didn't perish in his scientific experiments. Each of you experienced different outcomes. That's precisely the difference between 3-4K microwaves and ionizing radiation. I know you're dying to understand what 3-4K microwaves are. Let's go. And Liang was dying to know. He felt as if he'd walked straight into her trap. Scowling, he snatched up his briefcase and brushed past Elena. She immediately looped her arm through his and gently stroked his tie. Buy me lunch? A gentleman wouldn't refuse such a request. And Liang glared fiercely at her. Elena burst into a bold, unrestrained laugh and whisked him out of the office lobby at a brisk pace. On the street, and Liang bought hamburgers and fries to satisfy Elena's lunch demands. Amid her complaints, they drove toward the Split Rock Valley R&D Center in New Jersey. The facility remained heavily guarded. After passing through a series of security checks, Liang entered once again the massive spider-shaped steel structure. Deep underground, the particle directional resonance machine rumbled ceaselessly. Walking along the circular walkways overlooking the chamber below felt like being mere ingredients about to be tossed into a meat grinder. Elena led Lang down to a large workshop on the third sublevel. Matvey and several technicians were busy operating a row of computers. In the center of the room stood a spherical micronuclear reactor connected to a particle emission gun aimed directly at an enormous 20-meter-long table. The table was covered by a glass enclosure containing 3 granite pyramids arranged identically to those in Egypt. Lang wandered in, hands in his pockets, utterly bewildered by the scene. Matvey glanced up when they entered but offered no greeting before returning to his work. Lang pointed at Matvey and asked Elena, what am I supposed to be looking at? Is he mad at me or something? Elena circled the pyramids once and replied, he can't stop working right now. I doubt he holds anything against you. He's not even interested in his own affairs, let alone yours. He only cares about that. Just wait. He actually wants to see you. After wandering around the workshop for a while, Liang finally saw Matvey set aside his work and approach. With a cold expression, Matvey extended his hand for a brief shake, then walked over to the large table and placed his palm against the glass cover. Mr. An, I hope you understand that I was very eager to see the results of the experiment back then. You know, organizing such a large-scale experiment is extremely difficult, and it requires massive data sampling. No matter what obstacles arose, I had to overcome them. Lang and Matvey had fought each other fiercely at his base in Gumu village, Malaysia, each nearly killing the other. From their very first meeting, they'd drawn guns on one another like enemies from a past life, and up to this point they'd never once exchanged a civil word. Now that Matvey had invited Liang here, he felt compelled to explain himself first. Liang kept his hands in his pockets and replied flatly, I won't understand you, and Kuba Town will never forget you. For all I know, they're hunting you down right now, because the dam you built collapsed, killing 350 people. Every family lost someone. The entire town was flattened. Behind his glasses, Matvey's eyes glinted coldly. A scientist's only job is to complete the project. How it's used and what consequences follow, that's your concern. If every scientist had to weigh the meaning of every invention beforehand, modern civilization would never have advanced. Elena interrupted them sharply. Stop. We're not here today to debate philosophy, Dr. Matvey. Are you still willing to consult Mr. An? Of course, Matvey said. I'm willing to learn from anyone who can help the research if Mr. An is willing, he finished, and stared directly at Liang. Liang just shrugged, hands still in his pockets, and gestured for Matvey to continue. Matvey pressed a switch beside the table. A glass cover slowly lifted, and 3 granite pyramids unfolded like building blocks into a complex, multifaceted polygon. Matvey reached into the hollow base of one pyramid and pulled out an apple, offering it to Liang. Liang took it and examined it closely. The apple was glossy and smooth, clearly full of juice. Its sweet fragrance detectable even from a distance. He smiled. So now geologists are turning into agricultural experts. Have you switched careers to develop new fruit varieties? Matvey then retrieved a small plate of strawberries from beneath another pyramid. They were vividly red, glistening as if freshly plucked from the vine. He looked at the plate and said, "These fruits were placed inside 10 days ago. No preservatives or refrigeration, just room temperature at 25 degrees Celsius and 25% humidity." And Liang was genuinely surprised. Under those conditions, an apple would normally dehydrate and begin to rot within days. Strawberries would spoil even faster. Even refrigerated fruit wouldn't stay this fresh after 10 days. This was nothing short of a minor miracle. Matvey pointed to an image on a nearby computer screen. "That's how they looked 10 days ago. Take a look." And Liang stepped closer. On the screen, the apple appeared dull, with several small blemishes and 2 half-withered leaves clinging to its stem. But the apple in his hand had vibrant green leaves. Curious, and Liang asked, "What method did you use?" Matvey didn't answer. Instead, he lifted a small glass box from the third pyramid. Inside was a single white mouse and nothing else. Holding it up, he said, "This mouse has gone without food for 10 days, yet it remains energetic. We suspect it's undergone genetic changes, though we're not certain of the specifics. Let's find out together." An assistant wheeled over a large glass enclosure the size of a cart, filled with over 100 unusually large and robust white mice scurrying about. Matvey explained, "This mouse was randomly selected from that group 10 days ago. The others received normal feeding. This one was starved nearly to death. Now let's see what happens when we put it back." Elena walked over with a smile, watching as Matvey released the small mouse into the enclosure. The moment it re-entered the group, the tiny mouse immediately began searching for food, but several of the larger mice swiftly surrounded it, while others watched indifferently. Chaos erupted instantly. White blurs darted in every direction, squeals of combat filling the air, too fast for the eye to follow. After 3 minutes, the frenzy subsided, and Liang saw the smallest mouse standing atop the highest pile of bodies, shrieking triumphantly toward the ceiling. Its mouth was smeared with blood. Beneath its feet, the stronger mice lay defeated, nearly all bleeding from their noses, each missing a small piece of flesh. The mice that hadn't fought now slowly approached the victor, emitting low, submissive squeaks. And Liang stared in astonishment. That little thing became the Mouse King. What just happened? Matvey first reviewed the recording, then turned to Liang. "This is the effect of 35K microwave radiation. I've discovered the most powerful force in the universe, but to fully harness it, I need techniques from Chinese Feng Shui." "Huh?" And Liang frowned, studying Matvey more closely. Only now did he notice how much thinner Matvey had become. His lab coat hung loosely on his frame, clear evidence of the immense energy he'd poured into his research. Matvey gestured for everyone to sit. "This is normally a company secret, but since Dr. Elena strongly recommended you for this project, I'll share the full story." In 1964, American scientists began detecting various microwaves from space. No matter what frequency they tuned their receivers to, they always picked up a faint background signal, omnipresent and impossible to filter out. Research confirmed it was residual radiation from the Big Bang, 35K microwave energy permeating the entire universe. And Liang asked, "So it's here on Earth too?" "Yes, everywhere." "Then why did only that little mouse become king? Why not me?" Matvey's expression remained blank. "Listen, this is an electromagnetic wave with extremely short wavelength and high frequency, packed with energy and mass. But in its natural diffuse state throughout space, it produces no noticeable effect. It's like gasoline, highly flammable. But if you only dip a cotton swab in it, you can't even brew coffee." And Liang began to grasp it. "So you're collecting large amounts of 3K microwaves?" "No," Matvey said, lifting his chin toward a nuclear reactor nearby with unmistakable pride. "I can generate them. That reactor is my invention, a 3K microwave emitter. At first I thought like you, trying to collect ambient 3K waves. I developed specialized detectors, deployed them from ground stations to satellites, even probed deep underground. It cost enormous time and money. Eventually I discovered that while 3K microwaves do permeate space, far stronger currents flow beneath the Earth's surface. These waves can travel through space, solids, any material, and induce resonance between organic and inorganic matter. Especially in folded or wrinkled terrain, they form unimaginably powerful microwave torrents. Those global topographic maps you've seen, they show the pathways of these 35K microwave torrents." And Liang suddenly understood. The 35K microwave Matvey mentioned was precisely what Feng Shui masters referred to as the dragon vein's qi, and the qi described in Chinese metaphysics could very well be this exact type of microwave. If this reactor could emit 35K microwaves at sufficient intensity, it would essentially generate dragon vein qi. That white mouse, nourished for 10 days by the pure and powerful qi of the dragon vein, would have absorbed the same Feng Shui energy as if placed in a true dragon's primary acupoint. How could it not dominate the entire mouse colony within 3 minutes? And Liang asked, "But how did you end up building an earthquake machine?" "Can 3K microwaves really cause earthquakes?" Matvey's sharp-featured face had grown so gaunt it resembled a skull, yet his eyes sparkled with undimmed intensity. He spoke excitedly. 315 microwaves possess strong resonance properties, and their resonant effect is even more pronounced when transmitted through solids. This initial research into resonance was merely the first step, the easiest part to achieve. As a geologist, I immediately thought of using my artificially generated microwaves to resonate with Earth's most powerful natural underground microwave currents. Honestly, resonance itself is the core of our study. Inducing earthquakes was purely an accidental side effect we discovered along the way. So technically, the full name of that machine downstairs should be microparticle solid-state directional resonator. But if you prefer, you can just call it an earthquake machine. Hearing this, Liang couldn't help but furrow his brow again. Elena had been watching him closely and instantly sensed the shift in his mood. She quickly interjected, "The company will reassess the applications of this earthquake machine. The research has already matured, and we're about to move into the next phase." After rescuing Dr. Matvey, he and I discussed collaborating on this project. We returned here immediately and began biological testing with 35K microwaves. Within just a few days, we observed significant enhancement mutations in both animal and plant genes. To gather more reliable data, we repeated the experiment and extended the duration by 10 days until we encountered a new problem and needed your expertise, Mr. An. And Liang felt both puzzled and flattered. These two scientists were treating him like some kind of authority, yet he knew very little about high-energy physics. What could he possibly contribute? He raised his eyebrows, wearing an expression of curiosity, waiting for Elena to continue. Seeing in Liang's eager look, Elena knew there was no chance of getting rid of him now. Smiling, she asked, "Would you like some coffee?" And Liang groaned. "Coffee? Who needs coffee right now? Just keep talking." Elena still signaled her assistant to bring instant coffee. She knew it would help calm him down. Then she continued, "Actually, each of these 3 pyramids originally contained 3 items, an apple, a strawberry, and a white mouse. But as of yesterday, only these 3 remained inside the pyramids. The other apples and strawberries had all rotted, which was entirely expected. However, under identical conditions, 2 out of the 3 white mice died. That's the real puzzle." And Leon quickly countered, could it be insufficient sample size, or maybe this particular mouse just had unusually strong resistance? Matvey shook his head. "Of course not. If it were that simple, we wouldn't have called you here. We're running 10 identical pyramid sand tables simultaneously, and every single one produced the same result. On a 20-meter-long table, the emitted 3.5K microwave energy is uniform, but regardless of distance, only 1 mouse survives in each setup. When we sent those surviving mice to the Mountain Bioengineering Lab for genetic analysis, we found they all shared the same enhanced mutation." And Liang asked, "Enhanced in what way?" Elena explained, "In simple terms, their leadership and cognitive genes were strengthened. Their social and combative traits were amplified. In human terms, they became shrewd, eloquent, aggressive, and naturally commanding. Their genetic profile matches that of naturally occurring rat kings." At this, a memory flashed through in Liang's mind. What these scientists were doing resembled nothing less than seeking the dragon and pinpointing the acupoint. Could this truly be deeply connected to Feng Shui? He tried applying Feng Shui principles to interpret their experiment. He studied the 3 pyramids carefully. Though they appeared similar, their heights were actually different. The central one in front of him was the tallest, while the one holding the white mouse was the shortest, exactly matching the ideal dragon vein configuration in classical Feng Shui. He asked, "Do the other 9 sand tables also have 3 pyramids each?" "Yes," Matvey replied. "And I designed each pyramid to have varying heights, arranged randomly in position." He then called an assistant to open a massive iron gate. Behind it stood 9 identical large tables, each scattered with pyramids of differing heights. To Lang, they clearly represented 10 distinct, simplified Feng Shui layouts based on elevation. And Lang rushed over to inspect them closely, then turned back and asked, "The other mice that didn't become rat kings, they didn't die either, right?" Elena answered, "No, they didn't die, but they became very strange, almost idiotic. After being released, they were extremely weak, just sitting there blankly, completely motionless. We assumed it was a normal abnormality after starving for a week." A surge of excitement rose in Lang's chest. To confirm his hypothesis, he walked to the tallest pyramid on one of the tables and pointed at it, asking, "So the mouse emerging from this pyramid becomes like that?" Elena and Matvey exchanged a stunned glance, then nodded in unison and stood up to join him. And Lang then pointed successively to the tallest pyramid on each of the other 8 tables.